Hey everyone, it's Christine Gritman here with Social. I do this show every week where I bring on smart friends to talk about different topics on social media. And this week I have a return guest and a new guest. So I have Brian Fanzo, aka iSocialFanz. He was last on back in 2017. And I still actually reference some stuff from that interview. And then I also have the amazing Jennifer Watson here, and I'm actually going to be on her show later on the Agorable site. So hi, Brian and Jen. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. As I was saying to you before we went online a minute ago, I was like, the world is on fire. And now I'm good again. It's going like that.
No, you need to take several moments during the day, take some deep breaths, and know everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
We're going to get through it. Look at Brian's smile. I love Brian's smile. We are going to get through it. You know, it's crazy. It's going to be 87 degrees here today in Atlanta. 87.
Wow, my goodness. And here's the great part. Stay at home doesn't actually mean go outside. You can go for a walk, you can go in your backyard, you can experience nature without people or touching things.
This is true. This is very true. I dropped my daughter off. Her daycare is still open, which is great. And they're cleaning everything like crazy. And then I ran to the store because I don't want to take her to the store with me to get a few things last minute. And I'm like so worried about what I'm touching.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my gosh. But you know what? We'll get through this as long as everyone heeds everything and stays to themselves. I think we'll be okay, but we just got to do that now.
We really do. I'm in New York. We are locked the heck down. So that's actually a good thing so that we can kind of slow the spread. Brian, are you in Virginia? Where are you right now?
Yeah, Virginia, right outside D.C.
Okay, so how are things going over there?
It's good. My daughters are peeking their heads in the door.
Oh, no, they're so cute.
No, things are. I mean, we're on voluntary, but they actually canceled school for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Last week from the kids, so a little confusing to explain that to them. And for me, part of it's like, man, I wish I was a kid that got the longest spring break or the longest summer spring break combo ever. But for them, they love school and they would much rather be in there. And the middle daughter has her very first Zoom call with her teacher and students today.
Yeah.
So we've been counting down the hours till that. Other than that, keeping a positive spin. It's a little easier to do that with Jennifer, in my life. But
yes.
For the most part, keep my head up.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. We're doing what we can do. And all three of us have actually not been able to do the whole, letting the personal hygiene slack and all that stuff, because we're all been going live. We've all been live, repeatedly during this whole quarantine. We all have to be, on. So I just want to back up for a moment and have each of you kind of give a brief introduction of just kind of your history with live streaming. Brian, we're going to start with you. Tell us about that. You go way back with live streaming.
I do. I go way back, but I feel like it's way back, but it's probably 5 years. But I guess 6 years. So for me, live video has always been overwhelming. I went to school thinking I could be a Sports Center broadcaster, and then realized you had to be good at English and journalism, and so then I quickly pivoted to computer science. But so for me, as I was growing my personal brand, social media, I launched a Google Plus Hangout show in 2013. So I did a little over 400 episodes of that show in 2013, 2014.
Wow. I didn't even know Google Plus had Hangout shows.
So we had a Hangout show with a simultaneous Twitter chat. So we were average 500 to 600 people. Interviewed the very first interview I ever did with Jay Baer, David Maron Scott. We had a pretty awesome lineup of. It was called Social Business Hour, and so I loved that aspect. I launched a podcast. But it wasn't until Meerkat came out that my kind of world of live streaming got flipped upside down. And I got a little bit of a head start. I was in Barcelona at Mobile World Congress. I was speaking at the event, and I had a friend who worked at Twitter, ironically at the time, tweet me and just say, hey, Brian, there's this new platform coming out, Meerkat. They're using our API. And Ashton Kutcher and Gary Vaynerchuk are using it. We think you might be wanting to use it. And so I went live in Barcelona twice. Wi-Fi and the internet sucked. But for me, it was kind of like an aha moment. So I remember I landed at South by Southwest which of course was the year Meerkat blew up and took over that event. But I had already had an account and already been live streaming, was on the leaderboard when I arrived. So I ended up having like 12,000 people watch me ride in an Uber and then walk the streets of South by Southwest. And I really had nothing to say and no idea what I was used to interviewing people on video. But for me, it was like that aha moment of like access to me. And I really love the participatory, back and forth. And I guess you could say it's all history from there. Meerkat, grew that account. At one point, I was one of the top 3 most popular accounts on there. Wasn't a fan of Periscope when it first came out, and partially it was because I love the interaction, the comments, the back and forth. But of course, Meerkat lasted just about a year, and Periscope came out, and then kind of took, doubled down on Periscope. Spoke at the Periscope Summit, was nominated as a Shorty Award Periscoper of the Year, and then decided to launch live streaming platform projects for different brands from IBM, Dell, the Super Bowl, and did that with Blab, which I'm actually representing a little Blab love today. Rest in peace. So another platform that came and went. And so yeah, for me, it's live video. I like to say I never was focused on trying to be a live video expert, but live video was the medium that I preferred to tell my story to the world. And I like to say it changed my business and changed kind of my access to things. And it's actually how Jennifer and I originally connected as well. I went to a panel that she was on because my actual business, my client, SAP, was there on the same panel. And ironically, I actually used the Weather Channel as examples of how to do live streaming really well. Long before I even knew she worked there, long before I knew who she was. She wouldn't even remember me for another year after that. But I digress on that. But no, so for me, live streaming has opened doors. It's, I've done a little over 3,500 live streams now myself. And I've said 3,500 for about 6 months. So I'm guessing it's getting closer to 4,000 now, which is kind of funny. That's where I kind of come about on that. And now my entire business is switching back there as this coronavirus is forcing us to go virtual. Almost all of my clients now are coming to me asking me to build out virtual event productions that include live video. So everything kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, you've woven yourself a pretty enormous and strong net to fall back on, I've got to say. That's fantastic. Some people, their fallback is, maybe I'll go back to, like, data entry or something. Your fallback is being a master of live video. So I think that's pretty okay.
I'll take it.
That's awesome. All right, Jen, so you come at live streaming from a very different place. You started in broadcast media. So let's talk about your story.
So really quick, I am actually a meteorologist, a degreed meteorologist. I got my master's degree, and
Women
my first
in STEM.
love is, I know, right? My first love is weather. I was an on-camera meteorologist at local TV stations for about 5 years before transitioning to the Weather Channel. Did social media for all my local TV stations, including my own accounts. And then I went to the Weather Channel, and just like Brian was talking about, when Periscope and Meerkat came out, we were huge partners with them. We did a lot of Periscopes. We oftentimes did dual, like Meerkat and Periscopes at the same time. And when Meerkat announced their feature where you could actually bring in someone into your Meerkat, we were the first brand to actually do that, utilize that feature.
Cool.
So we were really big in live video in that aspect. And then once Facebook Live came around, we jumped right on that too. And we ended up partnering with Facebook for a year. And we did about 1,200 Facebook Lives for them.
Facebook Live rolled out first to members of the media before the general public had it, because I was in a newsroom at the time too. And so it was kind of interesting that the general public didn't have it. And then it rolled out to people with blue check marks. And then it rolled out to the general public. So media really had a first dibs on that.
Yeah, and it was, we still did Periscopes, but obviously our partnership with Facebook, we focused a lot, obviously, on Facebook Lives. We learned a lot, we tested a lot of things, and basically our partnership consisted of Facebook learning from what we were doing. They wanted us to try different things so they could see what worked and what didn't work, which was kind of really cool. And we did lives. Obviously, I worked with the Weather Channel, so, tornadoes, hurricanes, natural disasters. We covered a lot of a lot of those. And so, doing a live stream in the wind, that sort of a thing, we learn a lot about the technology, what works, what doesn't work. I created basically social media kits on the go for people to use. But my passion for live video is so big because it allows you to connect with people around the world. When you press that button and you go live, you have no idea who could join you. Like anybody could join you. And that's what makes it so fascinating and so amazing. And so now I am at Agora Pulse. I've been here for almost a year, and we launched Social Pulse Weekly, which yay, Agora Pulse. I love that sweater, sweatshirt. And so Christine's going to be on my 2-hour live show this afternoon. Usually it's just an hour, but we're kind of having like a big, huge rapid fire one. But so we started that, and I love that because you get to connect with your consumers, your fans, and really know how people are doing and having that two-way conversation and strengthening that community. And we're also launching a new Facebook group and Lunch and Learn series next week. So there's a lot of fun things going on. But with live video, Brian and I both have kind of different experiences, which makes us, when we come together, we both love it so much and have the same passion for it. So I think that's why we connect very well. And we should be doing our own show, Brian. I have a feeling.
You'll get there.
Look at
Take two couple.
Like we don't have enough things on our plate at the moment.
I know. No, Brian's like, Jen, you want to start something else? I'm like, I do. I like it when there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, they say if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. Right?
True.
They've already got the juggle going. Just toss one more ball in there. Speaking of interaction, we have Kathy Nolan, beautiful artist. Woo! Kathy Nolan saying, my 3 favorite peeps. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Oh,
mine's
nice.
in the other room. I got to get my caricature.
Yes, we've all got beautiful caricatures by Kathy Nolan.
My daughter knocked it down today, and I just picked it back up, so how funny was that?
Mine's in my son's room. And then we have Mona Giordano saying, what are you using to have 3 people on the same live? So I use Ecamm. There are several programs that can do that. BeLive can do that. StreamYard can do that. Switcher Studio can do that. But I use Ecamm. I love Ecamm. And if you actually go to gripman.com/favorite things, you'll find an Ecamm link there. As well as
I'm a big Ecamm fan as well, so I like using Ecamm.
I love Ecamm so much. All right, so Jen, I just wanted to circle back to something that you had said, which is that you found yourself doing social for the places that you had worked. My question is, so was that officially like you were brought in to do social, or was that back then, hey, we have someone here who's already on staff who gets it?
So we were required, so this is a funny story. Originally with social, Facebook came out, it was 2006, and a lot of my friends were on it, and I'm just like, I really don't want to be on it. I don't want people bragging about their vacations and stuff. I just was totally like, look at Brian smiling. I was totally against it. Actually, one of my friends started created my Facebook profile for me because she was like, Jen, you just need to get on it. But I still wasn't the biggest fan. Yeah, I still wasn't the biggest fan. Then my first TV job, we were required to have social media accounts on all the social channels. And so I was on Twitter, but I'd only done 3 tweets in 6 months. And my news director brought me into his office and he was like, Jen, let's talk about this for a second. He's like, I want you to have conversations with other meteorologists and your fans and people watching. And so I was like, okay. And it lit a fire kind of under my butt and literally turned me into a Twitter monster. Like literally I was addicted to it. And it made me fall in love with social media, the way you can make connections. Because I was kind of by myself in Tupelo, Mississippi at my first TV station, but I didn't feel alone with the connection of social. And so from there, I realized how powerful it was. And then I actually got a job at the Weather Channel being their social media specialist. And so that was all my job and everything I did, which was really awesome.
I love that. Yeah, because basically, unless you're like 25, nobody who's more like our ages in our 30s started out in social, right? You literally couldn't. Yeah. It didn't exist.
Exactly. Like it was college.
Yeah.
And for Brian, it was like after college.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just kidding. I love you, Brian.
It's true.
So Brian, to that end, you didn't start out in social either, obviously. By the time live streaming was becoming a thing, you already were a presence on social to some degree. I want to talk about how you became a presence on social, how you became someone where someone from Twitter said, hey, we're doing this new thing and Brian should be a part of it.
So interestingly, like I graduated college in '03, and so I like to say my first entrepreneur job was Napster, and I burnt CDs for those in my dorm room. I made pretty good money. They could put in their requests. I would go in. At one point, I was running 4 different lab machines in my dorm room.
Yeah, we were in college at the same time. I remember you could get any song you wanted: Napster, LimeWire, Wild West.
Oh yeah, I would even like make a custom label on it. You could do 20. Oh yeah, it was, and so like this was also the AOL Instant Messenger days, which sounds like we're old, but it's not old.
And ICQ.
And for me, part of that was I loved Instant Messenger. I loved chat. I can honestly say like wasn't the most confident college student, even though I played hockey and was in a fraternity. Most of my connections were not. My idea of talking to girls or meeting girls was if I got their AOL Instant Messenger, I could kind of foster a stronger conversation.
I got the screen name.
I did. And so for me, I was in cybersecurity for the government. So like, social media wasn't really something that they were like pushing in 2003 to 2000. Ever really for that space. But I was a diehard Pittsburgh sports fan. And so for me, it was really, I had Facebook, I had MySpace, I enjoyed those platforms, but it was Twitter that allowed me to connect with my Pittsburgh people, that we like lived and breathed and talked all day long about Pittsburgh sports. And as I kind of fell in love, like I like to talk fast, I like to just throw things out there, I don't like to be perfect. I some days like to talk, all day long, other days I like to just sit and listen and consume, and Twitter was kind of like my hub. And so I grew out an account which is called Pittsburgh_Fanz, F-A-N-Z, which is still there. I still tweet on it on a regular basis about Pittsburgh stuff.
I had no idea.
And so it was actually in 2010, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try to go all in on this Twitter stuff. And I was speaking on behalf of the government, but I was traveling. Like I was doing 50 weeks a year on the road. I did 54 countries in 4 years. And so really what Twitter became was kind of like my way of not caring about time zones and being able to be not connected to friends, because at that time it was nobody that I knew in person. It was all Twitter Pittsburgh friends, and I decided to created 8 different Twitter accounts on the same day.
Wow.
Because I'm kind of like, I like to say I'm the president and CEO of Team No Niche, which is just the fact that I've never had a niche. Like I was a computer science major that played hockey and was in a fraternity. Nobody was in any of those two combined, let alone all 3. Like computer science people don't play hockey, and hockey
You're
people
a Venn diagram unto yourself.
Right. And so for me, I created those 8 accounts on Twitter, and iSocialFanz, actually it was iSocial_Fans for the first 3 years, was the account that I had. And interestingly enough for me, during those times, I liked it. I was putting stuff out there, but it really wasn't me. And November 2nd, 2013 is the day I remember. I talk about it a lot now on stage. But my mom kind of called me out and was like, she was asking me something about social media and why I like Twitter, and I was telling her about it. And she's like, it sounds like you spend too much time trying to be something you're not. Like, are you being something? Are you being yourself? Like, I don't see you wearing a hat. I'm not sure what's going on. And I remember I just told my mom, like, yeah, Mom, of course I am. You don't know social media, Mom. I do. You don't. And I hung up, and I was like, crap, I think she's right. And
couldn't tell her that point, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, she knows now. She's been in the audience when she's heard that story. So, but yeah, so then for me, that was the day where, I had maybe 2,500 followers total on social. And it was that day that I was kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to put myself out there. I'm going to switch everything to being about what I think other people want. And I'm going to start sharing who I am and what I'm about. And that's where, that's kind of where the journey took off. I got awarded an award in 2014 called the Top 25 Social Business Futurists of the Year by The Economist.
Wow.
And it was pretty cool. It allowed me to travel to TED Talks, different big events with some of the biggest brand social media people out there, like with what Jennifer was doing. And I wasn't a brand, so I didn't even run the brand social media team at my company. Actually, a good friend of mine did. And that kind of access to, other people that were running social media brands and this award and kind of the idea that I was going all in my personal brand. And it also happened to be a firestorm of Meerkat dropping that spring. So if you think about it, it was decided to invest in my own personal brand, start blogging, putting myself out there, got the award, started traveling, live streaming came out, and I, to put it simply, I pressed the damn button. And so that's kind of how all that happened. And I can honestly say, even the award, I figured it out long time later. Like, I won an award for employee advocacy and social selling program that I deployed at my data center, but I never once tweeted about it, never once blogged about it, was never once interviewed about it. And so for me, even when my CEO came in and gave me the award, he's like, dude, this is from The Economist. And he's like, but I don't know what the heck you did, but apparently people think it's good. Like, that was like my CEO's way of like, good job, like, attaboy. And at the time, it was super confusing. I was like, I don't know how even people knew. I assumed it was a coworker. I came to find out years later that I was nominated by a business partner of our company who happened to be on social media that was running a kind of a social tool, and just happened to be in the room when I was briefing our entire company-wide on how we were deploying social selling and employee advocacy. And I like to say, like, it's those things where a lot of people look at me now and be like, oh, you're the guy that loves putting yourself out there and telling your story, and you're vulnerable and transparent. I wasn't, right? Like, and part of it was this idea that once I was out there, these are things I embraced. But I'm very thankful for that early, that recognition and kind of like a firestorm of things kind of coming together.
Yeah, once you made that decision to be you, to stop being what you thought other people wanted you to be, the universe responded in such a huge way, and you were in a position to seize that, and that is amazing. I love that. So,
and I'll tell you what, and social media got a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
Like, for anyone, I tell anyone that's stressed out about social media, Jennifer, sometimes, is when you're trying to be perfect, right? And it's that perfection that oftentimes. And I understand it. Like, I sent out 2 tweets yesterday that went really, really well, and both of them have really bad typos. And I was a little bit frustrated. Like,
and no edit button.
I was frustrated when I saw it at first, and then this is someone that preaches perfection's a fairy tale. So, like, even myself, it's supposed to say I'm, and it says in. I'm like, oh, gosh. And it doesn't even, like, thankfully most people read it and skip through it.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in that part of it. But, I think that I linked that to a lot of my success was even less than being myself. It was more with being okay with not being perfect. And that. I mean, like, live video is the only guarantee you have in live video is something will go wrong. Like, it's the only guarantee. Like, there's no other guarantee. True. So
this one's perfect. I don't know where you're talking. No, just kidding. We're probably not on YouTube. So Jen, to your to that point about how Brian emerged with his own voice on social media after getting a foothold in there, you started in brand social. It started really being about the content. It was about the weather. People were there for their tornadoes. So how did your voice come to emerge in social media?
I would say through the Weather Channel, being the sole, for about 2 years, the sole social media person on the TV side, a lot of my personality came out in what we did, and kind of resonated really well with the on-camera meteorologists. And so I did, along with our on-camera meteorologist, I also did live video for the Weather Channel. When we didn't have a talent, you could say, that was available, I would do the live videos and do live interviews. So I kind of came out of my shell there. But it all kind of stemmed back to being an on-camera meteorologist and literally putting yourself out there, because not everyone, unfortunately, likes you. No matter how nice you are, it started, my first job in Tupelo, Mississippi, when you're on camera, people will judge you. They'll say things, they'll email things to you.
They feel very brave behind the keyboard.
And so I think my vulnerability kind of started there, and just being like, you know what, but I love this. I don't care. And if people don't like me, that's fine. But, the majority, 99% of were people that loved me, loved, what I did and how I explained the weather, which was awesome. But then my voice came out. I got to do things at the Weather Channel and be on one of their shows. So that kind of helped me flourish as well. And then being at Agorapulse and being the social media manager there and hosting and kind of developing, creating this live show, that's kind of where I've really grown and blossomed. And funny enough, Brian and I, like I've been talking with Brian a lot because I would love to do my own show, start something on the side, just because I love live video so much. My passion for it is so high. And I think now more than ever, people need to see your face. Like video, live video, that's what brands need to do right now. They need to feel that connection. And you don't feel that connection, through typing something or an image. And even just a non-live video, people don't feel that connection, but they feel it when you're actually talking to them. They can hear it in your voice. And so I think that's exactly what all brands should be doing right now, is figuring out what ways they can add live video or video into their strategy. I know some brands who've been very smart. They've had CEOs or executives in their companies. They send out a company-wide email with their CEO talking, or whoever it is, being compassionate and empathetic with the situation going on right now across the world. And, letting them know that their company is there for them. Like, that's the right way to market right now. Like, marketing really shouldn't happen right now in the original way or the usual way. It needs to be empathetic. How can we help and support one another? I think that's the smartest play that any company brand can be doing right now. And I know I totally transitioned your question from finding my voice into that, but I feel like that's where even brands can blossom right now and grow their communities. I think a lot of people feel stuck. They're like, well, crap, our customers are, we're not getting more customers, or they're kind of being like, we can't afford this right now. But, if you build a community, even if they're not buying or purchasing things or can't right now, when the economy gets back going and things get back to normal, they will. They'll remember you were there for them. They remember that sparking an emotion. It really resonates with people, no matter any kind of content. Like, commercials make me cry all the time. Dove commercials especially, and Cheerios. But that's one of the biggest things. And I unfortunately have a hard stop in like 2 minutes. Yeah. But that's kind of my 2 cents going, talking about this, and when it comes to live video, I would say if you're nervous about doing it, this was really great advice from Sean Cannell, who is actually on one of my shows. He had an employee do Instagram stories every single day for a year.
Wow.
But that's one of the things you can do, because it's practice, and get used to seeing yourself on camera. And then once you have to go live, you're just like, it's just like I've done every single day. So I would say practice, but expect imperfection. Doing all the lives in crazy weather, we've had every possible thing go wrong that could go wrong. You just get back up and start moving. And people get it. Technology, even the most technologically brilliant people have tech issues. I mean, it's just a thing. It's uncontrollable sometimes. So just know that happens. And, being vulnerable and being honest with yourself and on camera to everyone else is so important, and will really help you find your tribe, your niche, for yourself, for your company. You don't want to reach out to just everyone. You want to find your niche, your super fans, your group, your tribe. And I think live video is what everyone needs to be concentrating on right now.
Absolutely. So. And showing your real self to them is how they're going to identify if they're part of your niche or not. I'm guessing that was your alarm saying that you have to go.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's fine. I had a question I was going to ask you, but now I'm going to ask it to Brian, and then we'll let you both go. Sorry. So, Brian, may I ask you? Oh, you can ask one more?
Really quick.
Okay, so my question is, so you have done very different types of video, because presenting the weather on a show, on a broadcast network, is very different from presenting as Jen the Human on social media, the way that you have transitioned to doing. What are some of those internal shifts between presenting as almost like an actress, really, versus bringing that human element in and really speaking one-to-one sort of to that viewer?
So that's a great question. And nowadays, it used to be presenting. I remember watching newscasts back in the 90s when I was a little girl, and, watching 2 of them break into laughter. And I was like, oh my God, they are human, because they're so just straight-faced reading the news. But they teach you now to have a communication. You want to be on camera exactly what you are off camera. So actually the transition wasn't that different. I mean, there is a certain, you've got to be on kind of, when you're at a conference or, when you're on camera, you bring your best self. But, it's all about being you and being personable and having a two-way conversation. They always say, when you're on camera, tell the weather as if you're telling it to your best friend or to a friend or your mom, not just presenting it like a teacher. And so, and I like that I'm seeing that so much more in local news and national news, because it's about that conversation. It's not just presenting the weather, but it used to be. So I was kind of on the brink of that transition, which was nice. So being off camera and going to these lives, it was, pretty easy and pretty seamless, which is cool.
I love that so much. And I'm going to wrap up by asking the same question to Brian real quick, and then we will be done. But Brian, so you mentioned going way, way back how you transitioned from all these accounts, built around communities, but they weren't necessarily built around you and your personality and all of that and really connecting with your tribe. What are some internal shifts that you made?
So that's a good one. I think there's also a shift in just the landscape of live video, right? One of the big things that I've always said, this is participatory content, but the average consumer, those that don't sit in marketing all day, don't think about, hey, I'm getting on Facebook, I'm getting on LinkedIn to engage in a live video, right? And so I think one of the big things that I've always believed in is like educating the audience as much as you are anything else. I've got access to LinkedIn Live over a year ago, and I have not gone live on LinkedIn yet. And part of the reason is because I take that very seriously. And I think, my mantra being press the damn button, most would assume that means kind of just press it and go. It's more of, hey, put yourself out there, figure out its value, but then have a strategy for everything that you do, right? And so, I was the person that ruined live video for a long while, right? I was doing 5 to 7 meerkats a day while doing a blab, while simultaneously on Periscope. I launched IBM's account with like 6 other cameras going at once. But
it was a less crowded landscape, though. So you were giving people some content to watch.
For sure, and and part of it too, if you think from that time, like we didn't know what worked, where, how, and so like I'd say one of the biggest shifts, and something I think it's really important, is that although we talk about all the time, every social media network is different. Your audience is different. The way that you talk is different. The title that you would use in a post would be different versus, I'm going live on LinkedIn versus going live on Instagram versus going live on Twitter versus here on Facebook. And I would even take that a step further. As brands right now are transitioning into virtual events, every webinar platform renamed themselves a virtual event platform. Every live streaming platform is now a digital event platform. I'm not a big believer in that kind of solution. I look at this and say, okay, what does a virtual event mean, right? It's not taking offline and just throwing it online. It's saying, what were we really great at doing offline, and what new things and what other things can we leverage online, right? And so I look at live video as, I do believe kind of what Jennifer said as well, that every brand can go live. Every brand can find value in going live. But I don't believe live replaces production. I don't believe live can fix stupid or stop bad people from doing bad things, right? And so when I look at that bigger picture too, it's kind of like, have a strategy, understand how you can highlight what you want. And the number one tip I always give people when you're trying to figure out content is people today, right now, crave access. You have to ask yourself, how do I give them access into who I am, what I do, the companies I work with, kind of what we're doing right now. And that access will extend trust. It will turn fans into influencers. It will turn casual customers into fans. And to me, that's kind of the beauty of this platform.
I love that. Thank you so much to both of you, Brian Fanzo and Jennifer Watson. Again, I'm Christine Gritman. I do the show every week where I talk to smart friends about social media. April's theme is British Invasion, so I'm going to have some of my British expert friends on, so tune in for that. Thanks. Bye!